Yeah, I mean, I think when we think of the guidelines now and how we think of risk assessment for patients, it's a it's a big change actually going from the pool cohort equation to prevent. So we've expanded the age range. Now it's 30 years of age up to 79 without ASCVD. So that's the population that we're pretty familiar with. They don't have atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease, but now the age range expands from 30 to 79 years of age. It's the same LDL cholesterol from 70 to 189. But the guidelines then promote this CPR, right? You have to calculate the risk now using prevent, but you personalize with risk enhancers. Those are still there. And then ultimately you can reclassify with coronary calcium. So these are the real changes that are there in this new guideline. I love that coronary calcium can reclassify risk because that's the presence of atherosclerosis. It does no good to risk stratify someone to low and then say, well, they still have atherosclerosis, but we're going to treat them low. So it's nice to be able to see that. But additionally, incidental coronary calcium. We do so many chest CTs on patients, and it is something that pops up often. Radiologists will see it and they'll flag it, but we as clinicians surrounding a patient need to be aware of it because that is a great way to understand who we can initiate statins or even intensify therapy in. Yeah, this is fantastic. And I'll give credit where credit's due because the National Lipid Association did come out and make a statement about this a few years ago. But here we're now coalescing around LP and making sure that it makes sense to everyone. This is another atherogenic particle. It's an ApoB 100 particle, but there's largely stable nature to the LP meaning it's a lifetime type of measurement. So if you've measured it once outside of certain things, inflammation, pregnancy, etc., it stays relatively stable, but then it's also inherited. So it helps us to do what's called cascade screening. Well, LP then, why should we measure it? Well, if you get it in everyone, a universal screening, then when it's high, you can identify families where it's elevated and implement therapies so much sooner. And I don't mean just pharmacologic therapy, but optimizing lifestyle, making it much more real that you have risk and we have to really treat this seriously. So there are thresholds involved. I can't just tell you do one in everyone and then just leave it at that. There are two different assays that we kind of think about mass and then particles. But here the guidelines kind of mention both, really clarifying that 125 nanomoles per liter, so these particles, that's kind of the threshold for risk. And that's equivalent, it's equal to 50 milligrams per deciliter. But then they go on and further stratify risk above that threshold, letting people know that it does increase the more particle sizes that, or more there are particles of LP. So first of all, recognize that we should test universally. So at least once in everyone. We don't have therapy, so we won't talk about serial testing just yet, but measure it once, identify those with high LP, and then that allows for cascade screening out to siblings, out to children, and then of course, nieces, nephews of siblings that have elevated. And I think that's really important for us to recognize. Additionally, with this, then is making sure that we understand it is an ApoB 100 type particle, so it's atherogenic.